Hi guys, Pop again. This is a chapter, and it's chapter 16, and the name of the chapter is Off to the Fair. This is the part of the book where Wilbur wants to become a prize pig, so let's kind of see what happens. The night before the county fair, everybody went to bed early. Fern and Avery were in bed by 8. Avery lay dreaming that the Ferris wheel had stopped and that she was on the top of the car. Fern lay dreaming that she was getting sick in the swings. Lurvy was in bed by 8:30. He lay dreaming as he was throwing baseballs at the cloth cat and winning a genuine Navajo blanket. Mr. and Mrs. Zuckerman were in bed by 9. Mrs. Zuckerman lay dreaming about a deep freeze unit. Mr. Zuckerman lay dreaming about Wilbur. He dreamt that Wilbur had grown up until he was 160 feet long and 92 feet high, and he had won all the prizes in the fair and covered with blue ribbons, and even had a blue ribbon tied to the end of his tail. Now, 116-foot pig is probably unlikely. It's like the pig in the Macy's Day Parade. But it was a dream. Down to the barn cellar, the animals too went to sleep early, all except Charlotte. Tomorrow would be fair day. Every creature planned to get up early to see Wilbur off to his one big, great adventure. When morning came, everybody got up at daylight. The day was hot. Up the road from Arabelle's house, Fern lugged a pail of hot water to her room and took her sponge bath. Then she put on her prettiest dress because she knew she would see boys at the fair. Ooh. Mrs. Arabelle scrubbed the back of Avery's neck and wet his hair and parted it and brushed it down hard till it stuck up to the top of his head. All but about 6 hairs that were straight up. Avery put on a clean underwear, clean blue jeans, and a clean shirt. Mr. Arabelle dressed, ate breakfast, then went out and polished his truck. He had offered to drive everybody to the fair, including Wilbur. Bright and early, Lurvy put clean straw in Wilbur's crate and lifted it to the pig pen. The crate was green. In gold letters, it said, Zuckerman's famous pig. Charlotte had her web looking fine for the occasion. Wilbur ate his breakfast slowly. He tried to look radiant without getting food in his ears. In the kitchen, Mrs. Zuckerman suddenly made an announcement. Homer, she said to her husband, I'm going to give that pig a buttermilk bath. A what? Said Mr. Zuckerman. A buttermilk bath. My grandmother used to bathe her pigs in buttermilk when it got dirty. I just remembered that. Wilbur's not dirty, Mrs. Zuckerman said proudly. He's filthy behind the ears, said Mrs. Zuckerman. Every time Lurvy slops him, the food runs down around his ears. Then it dries and forms a crust. He also has a smudge on the side where he lays in the manure, which is poop. Well, he's dirty and he's going to have a bath. Mrs. Zuckerman sat down weakly and ate a donut. His wife went to the woodshed. When she returned, she wore rubber boots, an old raincoat. She carried a bucket of buttermilk and small wooden paddle. Edith, you're crazy, mumbled Mr. Zuckerman. But she paid no attention to him. Together they walked into the pig pen. Mrs. Zuckerman wasted no time. She climbed in it with Wilbur and went to work. Dipping her paddle in the buttermilk, she rubbed him all over. The geese gathered around to see the fun, and so did the sheep and the lambs. Even Templeton poked his head out curiously to watch Wilbur get buttermilk bath. Charlotte got so interested she lowered herself on the drag line so she could see also. Wilbur stood and his eyes closed. He could feel the buttermilk trickling down his sides. He opened his mouth and some buttermilk ran into it. It was delicious. He felt radiant and happy. When Mr. Zuckerman got through and rubbed him dry, he was the cleanest and prettiest pig that you ever saw. And there's a picture of a pretty, clean, buttermilked pig. He was pure white, pink around the ears, snout as smooth as silk. The Zuckermans went up to change into their best clothes. Lurvy went to shave and put on his plaid shirt and his purple necktie. The animals were left to themselves in the barn. The 7 goslings paraded around and with their mother. Please, please, take us to the fair, begged a gosling. Then all 7 began teasing to go. Please, 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 please. They made a quiet racket. Children, Snap the goose, were staying quietly at home. Only Wilbur is going to the fair. Just then Charlotte interrupted. I think I shall go too, she said softly. I have decided to go with Wilbur. He may need me. We can't tell what may happen in the fairgrounds. Somebody's got to go along who knows how to write. And I think Templeton's better come too. I might need somebody to run errands and do general work. I'm staying right here, grumbled the rat. I haven't the slightest interest in any fair. That's because you've never been to one, remarked the old sheep. A fair is a rat's paradise. Everybody spills food at the fair. A rat can creep out at night and have a feast. In the horse barn, you will find oats that the trotters and pacers have spilled. In the trampled grass of the infield, you will find old discarded lunch boxes containing the foul remains of peanut butter, sandwiches, hard-boiled eggs, crackers, crumbs, bits of donuts, and particles of cheese. In the hard-packed dirt in the midday, after the glaring lights are out and the people have gone home to bed, you will find veritable treasure of popcorn, fragments, frozen custard, dribblings, candy apples abandoned by tired children, sugar-fluffed crystals, salted almonds, particles, partially gnawed ice cream cones, and wooden sticks of lollipops. Everywhere is loot for a rat, in tents and bottles, in haylofts. Why, a fair is enough disgusting leftover food to satisfy an entire army of rats. Templeton's eyes were blazing. Is that true, he asked? Is this appetizing yarn of yours true? I like high living, and what you say really tempts me. It's true, said the old sheep. Go to the fair, Templeton. You will find that the conditions of the fair will surpass your wildest dreams. Buckets with sour mash sticking to them in tin cans containing particles of tuna fish, greasy paper bags stuffed with rotten stuff. That's enough, cried Templeton. Don't tell me any more. I'm going. Good, said Charlotte, winking at the old sheep. Now then, there is no time to be lost. Wilbur soon will be put into his crate. Templeton and I must get in the crate right now and hide ourselves. The rat didn't waste any time. He scampered over to the crate, crawled between the slats, pulled a straw over him, and he was hidden from sight. All right, said Charlotte, I'm next. She sailed into the air, let out a drag line, and dropped gently to the ground. She then climbed to the side of the crate and hid herself inside a knothole in the top of the board. The old sheep nodded. "What a cargo," he said. "That sign ought to say Zuckerman's famous pig and 2 stowaways." "Look out, the people are coming, coming, coming," shouted the gander. "Cheese it, cheese it, cheese it." The big truck with Mr. Arable at the wheel backed slowly toward the barnyard. Lurvy and Mr. Zuckerman walked alongside. Fern and Arvy were standing in the body of the truck, hanging onto the sideboards. "Listen to me," whispered the old sheep to Wilbur. "When they open the crate and try to put you in, struggle. Don't go without a tussle. Pigs always resist when they are being loaded." "If I struggle, I will get dirty," said Wilbur. "Never mind that. Do as I say. Struggle. If you were to walk across the crate without resisting, Zuckerman might think you were bewitched. He'd be scared to go to the fair." Templeton poked his head up through the straw. "Struggle if you must," said he, "but kindly remember that I am hiding down here in the crate and I don't want to be stepped on, or kicked in the face, or pummeled, or crushed in any way, or squashed, or buffeted about, or bruised, or lacerated, or scarred, or biffed. Just watch what you're doing, Mr. Radiant, when he starts shoving you." "Be quiet, Templeton," said the sheep. "Pull in your head. They're coming. Look radiant, Wilbur. Lay down, Charlotte. Talk it up, geese." The truck backed slowly to the pig pen and stopped. Mr. Arable cut the motor, got out, walked around the rear, and lowered the tailgate. The geese cheered. Mr. Arable got out of the truck. Fern and Avery jumped to the ground. Mr. Zuckerman came walking back to the house. Everybody lined up at the fence and stood for a moment admiring Wilbur and the beautiful green crate. Nobody realized that the crate already contained a rat and a spider. They were hiding. "That's some pig," said Mr. Arable. "He's terrific," said Lurvy. "He's very radiant," said Fern, remembering the day he was born. "Well," said Mr. Zuckerman, "he's clean anyway. That buttermilk certainly helped." Mr. Arable studied Wilbur carefully. "Yes, he's a wonderful pig." It's hard to believe that he was the runt of the litter. "You'll get some extra good ham and bacon, Homer, when it comes time to kill that pig." Wilbur heard these words and his heart almost stopped. "I think I'm going to faint," he whispered to the old sheep who was watching. "Kneel down," whispered the old sheep. "Let the blood rush to your head." Wilbur sank to his knees, all his radiance gone. His eyes were closed. "Look," screamed Fern. "Look," screamed Fern. "He's fading away." "Hey, watch me," yelled Arvy, crawling on all fours to the crate. "I'm a pig, I'm a pig, I'm a pig." Arvy's foot touched Templeton under the straw. "What a mess," thought the rat. "What fantastic creatures boys are. Why did I let myself get into this?" The geese saw Arvy in the crate and cheered. "Arvy, you get out of that crate this instant," commanded his mother. "What do you think you're doing?" "I'm a pig," cried Arvy, tossing handfuls of straw in the air. "Oink, oink, oink, oink." "The truck is rolling away, Papa," said Fern. The truck, with no one at the wheel, had started to roll downhill. Mr. Arable dashed to the driver's seat and pulled on the emergency brake.
His name is Avery.
"Thank you, Lily." The truck stopped and the geese cheered. Charlotte crouched and made herself as small as possible so Avery wouldn't see her. "Come out at once," cried Mr. Arable. Avery crawled out of the crate on her hands and knees, making faces at Wilbur. Wilbur fainted away. "The pig has passed out," said Mrs. Zuckerman. Throw water on her." "Throw buttermilk," suggested Avery. The geese cheered. Lurvy ran for a pail of water. Fern climbed into the pen and knelt by Wilbur's side. "It's sunstroke," said Zuckerman. "The heat is too much for him." "Maybe he's dead," said Avery. "Come out of that pig pen immediately," cried Mrs. Arable. Avery obeyed the mother and climbed into the back of the truck so he could see better. Lurvy returned with cold water and dashed it on Wilbur. Throw some on me," cried Avery. "I'm hot too." "Oh, keep quiet," hollered Fern. "Keep quiet." Her eyes were brimming with tears. Wilbur's feeling the cold water came too. He rose slowly to his feet while the geese all cheered. He's up," Mr. Arable said. "I guess there's nothing wrong with him." Here's a little picture of Wilbur being passed out before they threw the water and the buttermilk on him to wake him up. "I'm hungry," said Avery. "I want a candied apple." "Wilbur's all right now," said Fern. "We can start. I want to take a ride in the Ferris wheel." Mr. Zuckerman and Mr. Arable and Lurvy grabbed the pig and pushed him headfirst towards the crate. Wilbur began to struggle. The harder the men pushed, the harder he held back. Avery jumped down and joined the men. Wilbur kicked, thrashed, and grunted. "Nothing wrong with this pig," said Mr. Zuckerman cheerfully, pressing his knees against Wilbur's behind. "All together now, boys. Shove." With a final heave, they jammed him into the crate. The geese cheered. Lurvy nailed some boards across the end so Wilbur couldn't back out. Then, using all their strength, the men picked up the crate and heaved it into the back of the truck. That's one heavy pig. They did not know that under the straw was a rat, and inside a knothole was a big gray spider. They only saw that pig. "Everybody in?" called Mr. Arable. He started the motor. The ladies climbed in beside him. Mr. Zuckerman and Lurvy and Fern and Avery rode into the back, hanging onto the sideboards. The truck began to move ahead. The geese cheered. The children answered their cheer, and away went everyone to the fair. That's the end of that chapter, guys.